Welcome to this video on means of participation. Shibley and West 2018 say this in Impact Journal. Lack of clarity in instruction puts too high a load on the working memory, and so too much time is spent problem solving the instructions. So this video is about one way among many that we can maximize the clarity of our instruction, so our students can get on thinking about the topic rather than figuring out how they're supposed to participate or complete a particular task. So means of participation simply means how the students should complete the tasks you set. What precisely do you want them to do and in what way? This is one of those techniques that's easier said than done. It takes a fair bit of practice to get it right, and it's really easy to forget to do it. So let me give you some examples. How do we do it? If you ask a question, you need to define, for example, who's going to answer. In what way will they answer? How soon do you want the answer from them? Can they ask a friend? Can they ask you for a hint? And so on. And so it might sound something like this. Okay, I'm going to ask a few questions now, but I don't want any hands up and I don't want any shouting out. I'll ask the question, then I'll pause to give you some thinking time, and then I'll pick one of you to answer. That's the first example for questioning. Or let's say you're setting a paired task. And you want them to discuss something and come up with an answer. It might sound something like this. For this task, you're going to need to talk to the person next to you and agree an answer to the question that I'll put on the board in just a minute. Once you've discussed it, make sure you both know what you're going to say, because I'm only going to ask one of you to tell me the answer. And you won't know who until I ask the question. Okay, the question's now on the board and you've got 3 minutes. Go. Here's one more final example. You might say something like this. For the next 10 minutes, we're going to be working in silence and you won't be allowed to talk to anyone. Now feel free to justify the means of participation. This is really useful, especially for students in our context who are often a lot more likely to be persuaded if they're given a reason for doing something rather than just being told to do it. So for that last example, you might also add something along the lines of, the reason I'm asking you to work in silence for a few minutes is because I need to know what each of you can do individually without any help from anyone else. It's not long, but it will be really helpful to me when it comes to planning whether we can move on or if we need to cover this topic one more time. So thanks very much. Okay, you can get started now. Now, of course, these things aren't silver bullets, but they'll probably help. And I do recognise that some of these strategies might sound a little bit schooly, and that's probably a fair comment. But we haven't we, got students who've missed out on a lot of schooling in the past few years and probably would benefit from some nice, clear expectations in the classroom and some positive classroom routines being reinforced. So over time, these means of participation routines can be built and students will fall increasingly into them sort of in a natural way. So why might you want to do it this way? It might seem like a fairly obvious point, but you can't really set a culture of high expectations in your classroom unless you communicate those expectations. Secondly, it's great for inclusive practice because it enables you to set up a classroom routine or a set of routines where those students who tend not to put their hand up or those that tend not to call out can also participate on a level playing field. It's super helpful for students with different kinds of SEND, especially those with ASD and associated challenges. There's less confusion about what behaviours are expected. Finally then, from a cognitive load point of view, setting out these expectations can help to reduce the extraneous load of a task because the students don't need to expend any mental resources on figuring out what to do. So as an aside, and just to finish up, I recently saw a Twitter post by a teacher who's printed the letters FLMOP on an A4 sheet and stuck it to the back of his classroom. And those letters FLMOP stand for front load means of participation. And the poster's there to remind him to do it each time he sets his students on a task. Now, you don't have to do that, of course, but it's definitely worth thinking about incorporating really clear explanations of the means of participation before each task is set. Here are some readings and references on this idea. Feel free to chase those up or contact me. But that's it for this video.